and welcome to Words Want Wisdom with myself, Sheila. And I am delighted to say that I am joined today by the powerhouse that is Catherine Martin of Woman Gone Strong, owner of Woman Gone Strong Gym, personal trainer, nutrition coach, and menopause practitioner. So you are a busy lady indeed, Catherine.
I am. You can imagine what goes on in my head, Sheila.
Listen, if it's anything like my own, you're in good company. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Well, we're out in location in the surrounding of your wonderful gym, and I have to say that this is one of the best places ever. It has a feel-good vibe. It has the... it just inspires, motivates, and makes you feel, well, personally for me, when I was here, it made me feel just so confident and so empowered in a way that I have never been before. So that's just my personal thank you to you, Catherine. So we'll get stuck into the interview. Now, you are a native of the town.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what it was like growing up in this area?
Yes, certainly. Well, actually, I'm born and bred from Ballymena.
Oh.
Yes, so we didn't arrive here until I was in P5. So I don't know what age you are whenever you're P5. It's quite...
I'm not even going to try and get my mind to go back that far. But we have then something in common. We're both from County Antrim.
There you go.
Yeah, although I think you've maybe got deeper roots here than I do at this stage.
Yes. So we've been here for a long time now. And it just happened to be that it wasn't by choice. It was just due to a religion thing growing up. Mummy and Daddy was a mixed marriage. And the area that we lived in was not in our favour, should we say, and we were forced to move out. But do you know what? That was okay. And to be honest, they probably did us a favour. All right? So Granny Clark lived in Blythe. That's where Mummy's mother was from. And now we just got into a house and have stayed in Blythe ever since.
Yeah, you haven't looked behind you?
No, definitely not. And I remember coming into P5 in Blythe Primary School, and I always loved being active and being outside and playing, but that was the first encounter of camogie. So I always borrowed some girls' camogie bat and went outside at lunchtime, break time to try and learn the skills of camogie.
Okay.
And I suppose that's the first time I really got into sport. And I suppose I loved it because it was something new, it was something that challenged me, and it was just something that I could control. I couldn't control my environment or maybe what happened in the old environment, but this was something I could control and I enjoyed and I loved it, and it gave me loads of energy, and it was just something new to learn as well. And of course the whole team aspect of that was doing it as a team instead of just being solo.
So your love of fitness, sport, being physical was really something that was integral to your very being from a young child.
Absolutely. And a lot of ladies ask me, where's your drive, Catherine? Because as we go through the story, I'll tell you more information about, competing and stuff. But in P1, I will never forget, we were living in Ballymena and there was a few of us at school, but Mummy hadn't got down to the sports day as of yet. And she sent me to school in a pair of brown corduroy trousers and the most gammiest jumper. And I remember having to do the wee sprint in those clothes. She hadn't got down in time to send me my training gear. And I fell over the line in last place.
But you got there, you finished. And you know the trauma of that? I think we all had a pair of those brown corduroy trousers at one stage.
So I have never wore corduroy since. And more importantly, I will never be last in a race again.
Okay, so that triumph over adversity, that little bit, that was your incentive in there, you see. I knew we would delve into it, go to places that we've never been before.
Absolutely. And do you know what? Everything stems from a childhood experience at some stage, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It does.
And how wonderful is it? I'm just picking up on what you've said there, that even the trauma and the stress and, the experience you had there of having to move, for you to be able to turn around and say, it wasn't a bad thing. It didn't do me any harm. I think that's such an important message for young people, and especially for women today as well, particularly. And I'm really focusing in on that because you are such a, you're a spokesperson for women. And I don't, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or anything, so correct me, at any time. And, you're so vocal and so passionate and so authentic in what you're saying.
And do you know what? I've got quite a new partner, Tommy. And so Tommy says, Catherine, you're very true, you're very authentic. And I goes, but I don't know who else to be. Like, what is the point of putting on a mask or being false? It's the only person I know how to be. And I'm very comfortable with who I am. So why would I want to be anybody else?
But I think that very much comes across in your brand. It comes across in your own Instagram feed, your own kind of Facebook platform and what you're selling. And I think that's why it speaks to so many people. And I'm saying like people like myself who maybe this wouldn't be their most natural or comfortable environment.
I totally understand that. I totally understand that. And I've been through so many gym doors in my past between CrossFit, Olympic weightlifting and just circuit classes and leisure centres. And I have seen so many females feel so uncomfortable in those situations with big numbers and different kinds of coaches and to me, little cliques of ladies in different areas of the studio. And I was going, if I ever have my own studio, one shoe fits all, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you have, doesn't matter your background, everybody is equal, you know?
And I can testify to that.
Yes.
Because as someone, I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I didn't have that natural inclination for, sport or anything like that. I wouldn't know one end of a camogie bat from the other. In fact, if somebody came charging at me, I'm running in the opposite direction, Catherine.
Yes.
So I'm the complete antithesis of you.
Yes.
Okay? However, at the ripe old age of insert relevant digit here, I found myself at a place where I was watching you. I was watching you online. I was looking at your posts and I was thinking, come on, Sheila, do it. And you have I think in my first message to you when I first tentatively reached out and I was in the car, I had come home from school, was at the back of Graham's shop in the car park and I thought, do it now because if you say you're going to do it when you go home, and it was just there. It was your warmth. It was your welcome. It was your whole persona, yourself. It wasn't your gym. It was you that brought me down here. And then it was you and your gym. I was thinking, God, it's not scary. I can do this. I can go down. I can work out at my pace. So, what she's saying here is true. I can validate that. So,
and do you know what? That's so important because even with regards to my previous workouts with CrossFit and stuff, and everybody had to get a certain level, and you couldn't drop weight. If you picked this weight, you had to stick to it, and all that kind of stuff. And I was going, no, I'm sorry. I love CrossFit, but it's just not where I'm at now at this ripe old age of 48. My body does not want to do what it used to do, and that took a long time to accept. But I'm okay with that now. I have to work with my body and mind instead of working against it.
Yeah.
And if I'm like that, well then how many other ladies are like that?
That's it. You're meeting people where they are.
Absolutely.
And you're working with them where they are and you're always maximising them to be the best that they can be. I'm trying to see, there's a parallel, I suppose, between what I'm doing in school. I'm meeting children where they are and I'm bringing the best out in them. And I think that sometimes when you go into that field, and again, there's in terms of the consumer, sometimes there's an expectation. I have to, that's not for me, or I can't do, or I won't do. So you really are breaking down all of those barriers and glass ceilings and all of those things.
Absolutely. And we keep everything very basic in here. And as you can see, we've got the darkness, well, usually in the evening time it's a little bit darker.
I needed the darkness.
Do you know what? But we all need it because we could have a day where we're having a skinny mini day. We could have a day where sometimes I just feel like the Michelin woman. So for me to be comfortable in my skin, and I know how women's brains work, the darker it is in here, the better. And we've got lovely bright lights. The music goes on, it's about the beat. And as soon as that music goes on, nobody cares who's wearing what, who's moving what way. The coaches are on the platform, on the stage, so you don't even have to think about what you're doing. You just copy what we do. And we make that process as easy and as simple as possible for you. But is it easy? No, it's not, because you still have to move your body in a way maybe you've never done it before.
But it's fun. It's not intimidating. It's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, and you are, and I think that they are mentally the biggest stumbling blocks for women particularly.
Totally.
In terms of physical workout. So,
Totally. And if it's not fun, what's the crack? Because
exactly.
It's hard work being an adult.
Who are you telling? I think we're all preaching from the same hymn sheet there.
I swear, it's hard being a parent. It's hard being a mother. It's hard being a businesswoman. It's hard just trying to do the right thing and the best interest of your kids and your family. And sometimes you just fed up being responsible.
And you can't really lose yourself in the ether either. You have to, you have to remember that you're an individual. And I suppose that leads me on to my next question, Catherine.
Yes.
As an individual, what really was it that led you? So you've talked us through your childhood experience. What was it that led you through into the area of wanting to become, a PT? You mentioned weight training earlier on, nutrition, all of those things. Talk us through your journey.
That is the right old journey. So way back in the day, now my background is accounting technician.
Oh,
absolutely. So boring.
I would, that's in the complete other.
Oh, totally. And I knew rightly whenever I was doing exams, this is not for me, but I started, so I might as well finish.
Yeah.
So I was doing those.
Like your race in P1 with the brown corduroy trousers you'd started, so you might as well finish.
Exactly, Sheila, exactly. And I'm not one to just leave things half done. So I did that, and I completed that in night classes. Dean was my son was probably 5, and I've been a single parent all my life, or all Dean's life, should I say. And that's okay as well. So playing that role of mother and father was hard. Providing for your son was really hard, especially in the younger days. But at that stage, I was 21, and I could have took on the world at 21. Nothing bothered me at 21. Now, could I do it now? I probably have to think twice.
I have my grandchildren, I have PTSD. So, do you know what I mean?
I get that. I get that.
Oh my goodness, how did I do this? And I definitely couldn't do it with boys. So,
that's it.
off.
So, so back then I did my night classes and I got into full-time work, and Dean was starting P1, so it was perfect. It was brilliant. Now, I did get support from family to go to night classes and stuff. So I goes, right, if I do this, it'll get me a good job and it'll get me decent pay so that I can get away from depending on the government for income. Mm-hmm. So that was my first and foremost thing. So we did a few bits and pieces in the background, worked in the local bar, was the cleaner as well in the local bar, and this was your Avon lady also.
I remember.
Do you remember that, Sheila?
I still have some of that material.
Oh my God, you have to throw that out if you still have that.
I still have it. I remember that, Catherine. That's a blast from the past.
Yes, totally. And Dean was only a wee tot, and he had his wee tricycle, and he came round with me in his wee tricycle. He'd probably be mortified that I'm even saying this, but he loved it. And it was like having your own wee shop. Once those boxes came, you bagged everything up. Now you're talking to a girl that never wore makeup a day in her life at that stage. So it was something very new, but the commission was good. It was like 20%. And I was going, this is going to be my spending money.
Yeah.
Because I do remember back then with the lack of funds and having really difficult, and I remember having £70 a week to live on. And I'm going like, I will never leave myself that vulnerable ever again. And Catherine, you will just do what needs to be done to get you out of, I suppose it was poverty really, you know? And what age is Dean? 26? You're talking about 23 years ago. And I goes, I promised myself that would never happen again. So you just do work hard and you get the head down. And so suppose that's where your work ethic comes from. It's the fear of going back to that vulnerability.
I'm just listening to you there, and the resilience and the positive mental attitude that takes, you know, because you could have very easily decided, this is it. You know, this is me, and allowed that to define you.
Yes.
So it just goes to show that if you have that right positive mental attitude, you can transform your world.
Yes.
And in turn, perhaps influence the world of others.
Absolutely. And I think from being a young mum at an early age, I was going like, I am responsible for my actions. I can't blame this, that, and on for the situation that I am. I have to take responsibility for that. Now, taking into consideration self-worth, confidence, everything was most probably on the floor at that time. Whenever you feel vulnerable, you just feel very small. And you just feel as if you're not heard and you're not seen and nobody listens to you and you're afraid to speak out loud. Like, even if I go back to secondary school, if a teacher had said anything to me in class, I would just took a really red face. Do not talk to me. Do not look at me. I do not want to be seen. I do not want to be heard. And I don't honestly know where that came from. I didn't have a bad childhood. I think we were just very, very quiet kind of person.
But I also think that schools were different places back then. You were meant to just sit and listen.
Yes.
You weren't, and if you were asked a question, you were expected to know the answer.
Yes.
And that in turn kind of breeds that don't look at me, don't speak to me.
Yes.
And as well, if you are, you know, because you're not, introverted's the wrong word, but if you are quiet by nature, you are going to double down on that as well. And you kind of have to power through to overcome that when the time's right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the first thing back then to take me out of my shell was the youth club in Blythe. It's the first chance you get out to mix, because obviously...
I hear about this youth club, and I've heard about it from John, and it felt like I just feel like I've missed out on so much.
It was amazing. It was an amazing environment, and you got to know everybody, even though you were at class in school with some of those kids. But it was very different whenever you're out playing with them, playing football, and I was always a tomboy. I was never into makeup or hair or anything like that. It's just like, okay, give me a football to go out and play football with the boys, or roller skating or something like that. So even whenever we were in the youth club, it was never so much the video games that I was queuing up for. It was the football and that kind of stuff, because it was just good crack. And it was like the whole movement for me. Movement just makes me feel good. It just releases those happy hormones. And you can't get that anywhere else to that extent.
No, you can't. And, you know, again, it's that activity and the correlation between joy and happiness. And that's something innately within. It's not something that you can, you know, you have to do something to allow your body to release that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was saying to Tommy, even like this is our first Easter together, and we came down here on Easter Sunday and did a workout.
God, you're putting me to shame.
But you know what? No, it's not. It's not that.
I did a workout, but it was opening a box with a chocolate egg and a Catherine.
Oh, I did that later.
Oh, right,
Don't you worry about that. And I was just like, and I'll tell you why, because I'm under a little bit of treatment for a shoulder issue at the minute. It's just an old injury that keeps around his head, so it needs sorted. So I didn't really do a big pile of workout during the week, but I knew coming the weekend, I was going, oh, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? And it was all this pent up energy that I didn't get rid of. And I was going, oh, how to get rid of it? Workout.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. So yeah, I felt very human after that. And then we had Easter eggs, we had dinner, we had drinks. And
really, I'm so glad to hear you say that. You are given permission, that it's not because there's this, to me anyway, perception that if you are into health and fitness, that you can't have, you know, my wee tipple would be a pink gin or a Prosecco.
I love my whiskey, Sheila.
You know,
I love my whiskey. So I used to be that athlete. If you're an athlete, I understand that perception, okay? Now, social media is a lot to answer for, because I can tell you here now, that is not how any human should live.
No.
In my eyes. And I have previously had to make weight for competition. Anytime I was doing Olympic lifting competitions, I counted every calorie, I counted every litre of water, every mil of water, and it was all data. I had to make weight, and normally I was sitting like half stone heavier than my normal weight to get into a competition weight class for my age, just to make me competitive. And what I did, and that's where I learned so much about me, my character, my body, food, and I was going, okay. So I remember losing almost half stone in 1 week to make competition. Whenever I look back on that now, what I loved about that was how I could manipulate my body. What was not good about that was losing that much weight so quickly.
Okay.
And I had to stand on that platform and lift the most weight I could possibly lift that day. And you're lifting barbells above your head. And I remember getting the barbell up, and I goes, my legs are going. I could feel my legs going like this, and I was going, I will never, ever do that again. Okay. And when I go back to Olympic lifting and competing, I will not worry about food. I'll not worry about counting calories. Whatever weight class I'm in, I will be there, and I will compete strong Catherine instead of a watered down Catherine.
Oh, that's really interesting, because you haven't come through that experience. You're going back with an informed, I know this is how I want to do this, but more importantly, this is how I'm going to do this. Yes. And you have the confidence now to say, well, you know, I'm not going to do it that way. This is me.
Yes,
this is it.
Absolutely. And I was going, I don't care what weight class I'm in, because I know I'm strong. I know whenever I cut back on the sugar, I can lean out that little bit that makes me feel more confident and stronger underneath the barbell. And that's far more important than a number on the scale that's going to make me a wee bit more competitive in a certain weight class.
It's just when you talk about cutting back on the sugar there, that's my downfall. Sugar, it's an addiction. And like I know that.
Yes.
Like 90% of my diet is sugar, and that's not good.
No, it's not good. And do you know what? It's so funny because I just have created a little program that I'm starting on next Monday. Yeah, so it's like a blood sugar reset. And I'll tell you why, because from that Easter egg, now I was doing so well with regards to being disciplined with sugar up until Easter, and now I'm eating chocolate for breakfast.
You
in the
fall
space
off
of a
the
week.
wagon. That's it. When you fall off the wagon, you fall hard.
It is. And with the stresses of life, it's so very easy to stay off the wagon.
This is like confession for me, Catherine. So I think if I name and shame myself to you and to others, it'll give me the motivation. The wagon is a dot in the distance for me. I fell off it and it kept going. So I'm going to have to cut back on the chocolate and the sugar.
And do you know what? It's so easy done because you get into a rut. And then that becomes your norm.
It's a fast pace of life. And you're just doing anything to give you that wee boost of energy to get over the line. And that's not how it should be. So I'm going to, again, take my inspiration from Woman Gone Strong right here. She knows what she's about. So Woman Gone Strong, Catherine. The name, I think, says it all. So tell me a wee bit about why you went with that name, the symbolism of it, and what it represents to you, and what you want other women what you want it to say to other women.
Yes. So in my eyes, there's so many ways to become strong, emotionally, physically, and mentally. And for me, I suppose anytime, even through my later years and stuff, anytime I was going to the gym or doing CrossFit or Olympic lifting, it was always about how I got through that journey. If I was competing 6 weeks' time, it was never about the end product, because I knew I had all the hard work done those 6 weeks. Now, there was tears, there was tantrums. There was good days, there was bad days. There were some days I come into the gym, I was going like, have I even lifted before? And like a learning experience, because obviously a woman's cycle is very important to how you lift on any certain day, coordination, how you feel. And it's not something we were ever taught during PT. It was nothing I ever learned through school.
Not something that you were even encouraged to discuss.
Absolutely.
You know, even with another woman, never mind to talk about publicly in any shape, way or form. So there was nearly a stigma attached
absolutely.
to it.
Shush, you know what I'm talking about, that stuff. And at the end of the day, if you're going to produce children, you need to know how your body works. You know, so... so I'm off on a tangent there. So what was the question again?
Just about Woman Gone Strong. Okay, I'm always off on a tangent, so that's why I have the card here so they can redirect.
Good.
So Woman Gone Strong.
Right. Yes. So the name. So that's how. So with workouts and on those journeys, it builds character, it builds resilience and discipline. And you have to be kind to yourself, even on the bad days. And that took a long time for me to figure out and understand. So throughout that, and I was going like, so this is before the Woman Gone Strong brand came about. It's just like, okay, so what do I want to represent with the name of my studio, with the name of my business? And I goes, well, I know I am a woman that has gone strong from all the crap that I have been through, be it with relationships, friendships, disappointments, whatever the case may be, and of course being a single mother. And I suppose back then I didn't feel like I have a voice, or that they talk about the throat chakra. I always felt it was closed over, and anything that I wanted to say sort of stuck there. And I was going like what is stopping me? So obviously it could be anything from your childhood. Maybe a few bad experiences with some teachers. Sorry, Sheila.
I have a few of them myself, Catherine.
You know, but it's just like, and you know what? I do feel for teachers because I know so many good ones, but there's a few dodgy teachers that have a massive impact.
There was, I would say that thankfully, the shift in teaching, there's been a very big shift in teaching for the positive.
Good.
But there were people who went into that profession and they abused their position.
Totally.
And the word power is not anything, it has no place in a classroom.
Yeah.
But they had vulnerable young people there and they abused it.
Yeah, so I suppose from a young age, that's coming off the back of those kind of experiences. I just felt I didn't have a voice. And even if, like I said, if somebody had said something to me in school, it's just like, oh, let me hide. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to even be seen. And I suppose going through youth club, but going through having to put yourself out there to learn new skills for work, going outside your comfort zone, no matter what it might be, it's always a process. Like this just didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight. And I remember going whenever I was 40, I remember thinking I was working 2 jobs at the time. I've always worked 2 jobs since Dean was born to get enough money to run a house. And I was going like, there has to be more to this. I love what I do. I'm very good at what I do, but there's no job satisfaction here. And I was going, right, okay, so why are you blittered working for not a big pile of money realistically? And not getting return for it. So I did start a program, Bob Proctor program, Thinking into Results, with a lady in Belfast, Kim Calvert, who's an amazing mentor. And that's where my mindset started to shift. So I was just like, okay, so I don't have to be put in that box. Society might have this to say or that to say, or whatever the case may be. But I always felt different growing up. I always felt as if I didn't follow the crowd. I didn't have to follow the crowd. I was very happy in my own wee space.
You were countercultural. You were doing your own thing and doing it your way. Yeah.
That's it. Now, sometimes you might have felt, oh, I wish I was a bit more popular, whatever the case may be, because that's all part of growing up, I suppose. But it didn't bother me to be the odd one out. You know, I was just comfortable in my own skin, and I could always just get on with things, you know? So, and I was going, right, okay, so what am I going to call this business? And I was going, well, I am a woman gone strong, and I know anybody that comes through those doors, regardless, maybe they might have been feeling quite vulnerable or scared or nervous, come up those stairs, but they'll always go down those stairs feeling strong.
Absolutely.
You know?
Again, there's a truth in that, 100%. So, and that's certainly when I was kind of observing tentatively from a distance before I ever reached out to you and put my foot in here, shod in my gym gear and my trainers. That's certainly what it said to me. You know, that it's not about you, but it's also about the women that you're bringing in as well. So they will come in and they will go out transformed in some way for them in terms of their world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And do you know what? Coming in here and coming up those stairs, you're not a mommy. You're not a wife. You're not anybody. You're just here for yourself. Whatever's happening outside that front door doesn't really matter for those 30 minutes.
And that's it. It's 30 minutes of being you.
Absolutely.
30 minutes of exercise, fun, laughter, sweat, you know, and all of those to work out the demons or to kind of throw off the shackles of the day.
Absolutely.
And that's so important. And women, I think, are on a perpetual guilt trip, particularly mothers, if they think that they're taking time out for themselves. You know, my children are big and bold now at this stage, 27, 26 as well. And I still have mommy guilt if I'm not about, and I'm thinking, I have to give myself a wee pep talk.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to go and do something for yourself.
Totally. And I do think about this an awful lot because I face those from a business perspective, and meeting so many females on a weekly basis, and it goes. And many of the time I get a lady message me say, I need to cancel my membership in the studio because the kids have this, that, and that, and I can't get any classes. And I go, sometimes it's my job to say, right, hold on. Are you telling me you don't have 30 minutes in 1 week? And I was going, I know you love your kids, but at the end of the day, you need to keep something for you. I remember whenever Dean was young, he was about 3 or 4, we started a ladies' Gaelic football team in the town. Best 3 years of my life, you know? And I was going like, oh, who am I going to get to sit Dean? Dean came with us. He came with us everywhere, even to the games and stuff. And I was going like, I could just lie down and sit in the house and watch EastEnders, but I know this is going to make me a happy mummy. You know,
And that's
happy
going
mummy
to give
is a happy home.
child, yes. And it's that, again, seeing you as a role model, you know, and children absorb, they are just sponges. And it's what you say to them, but more it's what you do. It's what they see you do. So it's a case of sometimes, 9 times, don't you know, do what I say, not what I do type thing.
Absolutely, totally. And of course that can work in a negative way as well. But I suppose if it's one message I want to get across today is you are more than a mother. You're more than a daughter. You're more than a wife. You are your own person. And what I see with a lot of females getting lost in who they are, I suppose sometimes females don't come to me till they've hit rock bottom. And if I ask them, well, who are you? They don't really have an answer, you know? And I was going, it's your job to find out who you are, to find out where that lady has gone, and recapture what it is that you want to do with your life. Because my son's 26 and he can more or less wear himself, and him and his girlfriend are buying a house at the moment, so he'll be moving out shortly. But I don't have any qualms about that because I have a life.
You have invested in yourself as well. And I think that's really important. Not in order to be that wife, to be the mother, to be whatever role you're called to, you have to kind of have something to anchor that to. Absolutely. Who am I? What am I about? Yes. And invest in your future self.
Absolutely. Because once the kids get to a certain age, they don't want to know you.
No.
That's tough.
It is tough. Yeah. But if you do your job right, that's how life's supposed to go. Yeah, yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And even now that Dean and Rebecca is moving into a house together, I have no qualms. He can look after himself. Mm-hmm. Like Dean, with me working 2 jobs all the time, came home in secondary school and could make scrambled egg and toast, could make beans and toast. And with air fryers now, like, hello, chicken nuggets and chips.
Best invention ever. Just throwing that out there. It has revolutionised my life.
Absolutely. And it just keeps my cooker so clean.
I now have 2 children who don't live at home, so I now need to wangle dinner in their house every other night, and then I will have no cleaning to do.
Sorted.
Now, that takes us on then, Catherine, to... So we've talked about your branding, your name,
yes.
Of your gym, your business. So your motivation and inspiration in establishing that is kind of tied in to that as well. Is there anything specifically that you want to say about that?
You know what? I don't think so. I think the longer you're in, like, some people ask me, what do you do? I go, I'm on PT, and they roll their eyes. But I was going, Catherine, you're selling yourself short here because you are so much more than PT. And from a woman's perspective to a male's, now I'm not going to brush, all males as the same, but you come and have a conversation with me and you'll get compassion because I'm a woman to woman, understanding female body, female life. Now you come in to a male and they'll give you a very logical answer, do A, B, and C. But I'm sorry, nothing's black and white. There's so much grey in there. And some ladies really do like to be pushed and made hold accountable, whether it's nutrition or exercise or whatever the case may be. And other ladies, you have to be so gentle because if you push too hard, they'll just put them over the edge. So, and again, that's a woman going strong, but everybody goes strong at their own rate.
So you were in that, it was your... I don't want to use the term hobby because sometimes that can come across as being, reductive. It was nearly your passion.
It was definitely a passion.
And then you could clearly see being in that world, having a joy for that there was a need there for women specifically.
Absolutely. And why it's just woman gone strong and not men. And many a man has asked me, why is it female only? Because you know what? You don't need any more attention. You look after yourself. Like my son Dean,
That's the soundbite I'm going to take from this. That's the soundbite I'm going to... Okay, that just sums it up.
I don't hate men. No,
I know,
promise I
but
don't hate
they
men.
Don't need... it is a man's world. There is that old saying, it's a man's world. And really, everything is geared up for them. So you've hit the nail on the head.
And do you know what? Whenever you say those words, that takes me right back to being a teenager, maybe 4th year or 5th year in school, and me coming home and giving off blue stink because there was no equality. Whatever happened in the classroom that day, I can't remember. And Mommy turned to me and goes, Catherine, it's a man's world. And I goes, no, it's bloody not. It's not.
I'm going to show you. Fast forward, time travel, woman gone strong.
Yes,
Here
it was
we
a journey,
are.
though.
Here we are.
It was a journey. And you know what? You're totally right. And so, like, Dean, he decided to do a half Ironman last year, right? Which is massive commitment. But I goes, Dean, Thor, our little sidekick of a dog, can you take him out for a pee? No, I'm going training. Dean, can you do such and such? No, I'm going training. So he used to do housework and all in the house, but once that came about, it was nutrition, it was training, which I totally understand because obviously I know the commitment it takes for sport, but that's the difference between a man and a woman. Like a woman would have said yes and maybe not got the training and then would have crapped herself come day, sport that day of that event because she knew that she put her family and her dogs and stuff first. That'll never happen with a man.
It's really interesting. And I'm just thinking, you mentioned there that Dean and Rebecca are buying a house. How lucky is Rebecca that Dean has been so well trained?
We've had this conversation because Rebecca is amazing, but she can't cook. But she's very good at doing dishes.
Okay.
So they have a good partnership going on there.
Very good,
Yeah.
very good. That was just a wee observation just based on what you've said there. So talk me through the challenges and the opportunities that you encountered to get to where you're at today.
Oh, it's been such a journey. And you know what? Such a journey. I remember the day I decided to leave my job. Now, at that stage, I was a buyer in a local company. I was there for 7 years. I loved the work. But with me doing the self-development program with thinking into results and really being very aware of other people, my mindset changing, me changing as a person for the better, with old beliefs and changing them, goes like, you know what, you can do this, you can do that. But the more I got into that, the more aware I was of my surroundings. Now, I can't choose the people that I work with, and some of them were not really nice people. And I always felt in that kind of environment, you always had to have your backup. You always had to have your back. There's no massive support there for you just to go and do a job. I just wanted to be nice. Like, why can the world not be kind to each other?
See, the politics in the workplace and the pettiness and that undercurrent there, that's so mentally draining and debilitating.
Totally.
It really is. And it's like playground, you think when you leave school and the playground dynamics,
Absolutely.
that in the world of being an adult, that you leave that behind. But
it's really not. And back then I worked with men, which I kind of loved because I had worked with women in the accounts department. I was just like, oh my God, this is hard work. And I'm not bitchy and I don't get in the middle of all that crap. But to sit and listen to somebody's point of view on a negative ninny every day in and out, it takes a toll. It took a massive toll on me. And I remember listening to whether it was one of Kim's talks, and I was going, and I went to work and I had my notice in. And this is a single mother who did not have a fortune in the bank, but I just knew I had to do that. And I always said to myself, Catherine, you will always make it work. You always make it work. And I was going like, and there's many a time after that I was going like, what have you done? What have you done? The fear was real. Mm-hmm. And I suppose that was 6-7 years ago. And I remember leaving my work at the end of January, middle of February, and I was going
the bleak, midwinter, dark, quite literally,
lunatic.
The pathetic fallacy there. I'm like, wasn't even summertime, blue sky, sunshine.
No. And I remember I didn't have the studio. It was a little room down in Lavey. It was Terminini, and I did spin classes down there, and I did my barbell classes, and that's really what my business consisted of back then. So I built that up, and I started going into communities. And
how long were you? When
like
you first
freelance.
left, did you? Yes,
I was freelance probably. Well, I'm only in here a year and a half.
Right. Okay.
So I was freelance all of that time. I learned so many lessons, and I did get the opportunity to to get a location. I remember I was in the Open Door Complex and the gym next door, UTP Fitness, and was trying to get classes to suit women. And just hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. And the guys next door had this space. And I was going, boys, if you're not using that, can I take it? They goes, yeah, go on ahead. And that's where the studio was born. And I have to say, a studio for me was never on the cards. I was always happy enough to do online. But I think after COVID, I needed that one-to-one connection. I needed that connection to chat with other females face to face, doing everything. And at that stage, everything was on Zoom during COVID, and I was going, I do not want to look at another person through Zoom because it's just not the right connection.
I would have to say there that one of the things, in addition to the actual physicality of the class and everything else, that I really enjoyed was the social aspect, the coming in. And I think I said this to you before we got started. It was seeing other women, seeing other girls from around the town and being able to have a chat with them and say, hello, how are you doing? Or, and that camaraderie. And if I was feeling, that I couldn't do it, even just looking over and seeing them, giving you that kind of encouraging wink. Absolutely. Or, laughing with you rather than at you as you were, totally. There was so much of that. And that's such a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I trained on my own for years because obviously it was a full-time job. I was doing this on the sideline. And I was trying to compete at the same time. And I was going like, Tommy goes, well, why do you not start doing a little bit lifting? And I goes, I do not want to train on my own again, because obviously it's very different to the kind of training that we do in here. And I goes, no, that's the only thing that's holding me back now. but at the right time will be the right time for that. But so with regards to, that's where I started. And then I got the opportunity to come in here, and everything changed once I put all my cards on the table, should we say. Now, that first year of business in here, I've learned so many lessons. And I suppose one of the hardest things to get right is to put a value on my time, on the services that I provide and I always probably undervalued myself, like every woman probably will.
It's that thing. Funny, myself and John were talking about a statistic. He's full of all of these random facts.
Yes.
And that a woman, if there's two jobs going, a woman will go in, and if their man and woman are both given a job, same role, same company, man will go in and ask for a pay rise, and a woman will not. And that's really one of the big problems with parity of pay.
Absolutely.
Because women aren't good at that. They're not good at saying, this is my worth, this is my value, pay me what I'm worth.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, if any woman listening to this podcast that has a boss goes in to ask their boss next week for a pay rise, they will at least be met halfway or get the full pay rise. Because even if I look back, like no employer is going to come to say to you, job well done, do you want a pay rise?
No, if you're happy with the status quo, they're more than happy with the status quo, and that's it.
Absolutely. So with regards to running this establishment in the studio, the hardest thing for me at the minute is wearing all the hats. You all right? Okay. So coaching, I'm going to say I'm brilliant at it because I love it. It's easy for me. That's the easy part. Writing programs for the ladies, doing the classes, easy part. Having fun whenever the music goes on and have a chuckle, that's not work. Social media. Now, I remember doing my first social media video all those years ago, and it was in around Christmas time, and it was me telling social media that I was going to do this full time. Now, I sat beside the Christmas tree with all the lights off in the house, so you couldn't really see my face.
You live and learn. You do.
So social media is definitely a massive learning curve. And do you know what? I go on, and obviously I research that stuff online, but do you know what? I am bombarded with online presence saying, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. And I am fed up listening to all of that.
Isn't that really interesting that people will take the time out to tell you what you're doing wrong?
Yeah.
But never what you're doing right.
And then if you do maybe click into that, they're going to charge you a clean fortune. Like, there's been mentors that I have followed, American, English, Irish, and I was going, oh my God, they have got it all together. Maybe if I just learned their systems and processes, well, then I could make Woman Gone Strong even a bigger success. And I had a call online with one of those guys from America, and he's going to charge me 30 grand for the year.
Is that all?
For the
Really?
year. And he promised me he's going to make me this money, that money. And then I'm going like, Catherine, catch yourself on. Because at the end of the day, I don't need to make a clean fortune of money. I don't need to make hundreds of thousands or millions. Money is not my driving force. My driving force is to job satisfaction. And whenever I see a woman coming up here in tears because she's afraid to come up those stairs, and within 3 months, feeling her best, looking her best, and a change in self-belief, no money can pay me for that.
That's saying that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
It's so true. It's so true. And with regards to coaching, that's me all day. Now, the other side of it with your email marketing, your video content, your accounts, and I suppose if anybody's going to go into business, my advice would be nail your accounts. Now, you're talking to an accounting technician from many years ago here, but did I want to look in black and white? The figures that was happening, and I was going, no, but I had to. And the sooner I woke up to that and took my head out of the sand, the sooner I could make better business decisions. And it's a hard one for me because with regards to marketing you're taught to, if I go to put out a post tomorrow, you're taught to, right, so you drill into the people's weaknesses, their needs. And again, going back to that, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. And I goes, but that goes against all my ethos. And that's where I struggle with marketing.
So marketing really is exploitative in that, and manipulative. And there's a danger that if you go down that route as well, that you become less authentic, less honest, and then people will not buy into that. Your biggest brand is yourself.
Exactly.
And you don't want to do anything that's going to
be
dishonest.
I want to lift women up. And you know what? I know sometimes I have an issue with sugar. I know sometimes I have an issue with not drinking enough water. But anybody that comes up those stairs, I goes, well, what are we good at? What could we focus on? And then the rest of the things will come. So I firmly believe if you fix what's in here, everything else is going to come so much more easy.
100%.
You know, so much more
Absolutely.
easy. So that's my issue with marketing. Now, that 4-week blood sugar reset, I could go on to social media and goes, right, you're going to lose 2 stone, you're going to lose a stone. And I have no doubt, ladies, you're going to lose fat on this 4-week. It's like a detox sugar reset. But that's not my marketing strategy. My marketing strategy is I am back to eating chocolate for my breakfast. I need a kickstart. And this is what's going to give me energy and just make me feel on top of the world. And give me that wee bit of confidence and structure and discipline again. This is what I'm getting from my 4-week program. And will I lose half stone? Quite possibly. You know, so...
But you're talking there that this is a 4-week program, but also it's beyond that, because what happens when the 4 weeks is up? If you are only focusing in on, you know, that end goal of the half stone,
Yeah.
that's going to creep back on again, you know, and that's my big problem, I think, or one of the big put-off factors with so many, you know, within that kind of health, within the health business, you know.
Absolutely. And the fitness industry, I don't like it. I don't like it as a person. I'm in it just because I love helping women. But anytime any of those posts come my way, I can see straight through them. And I was going, right, I do not want to count every calorie. I do not want to work out every day. I do want to do fasted cardio every morning, just so that you can tan me up, you can cream me up and put me into a photo shoot. And I might have some abs for you to promote this program after the next one. It's a money racket. It is a complete money racket. And
It's also quite bad for, you know, your mental state, your kind of relationship with food that many women struggle with.
Totally.
You know.
And it's all about calories this and calories that. I goes, no. It's how you put certain calories or your certain foods on a plate. Okay. So I don't know about you, but we didn't have a big pile of money growing up, and it was always spuds with a wee bit of meat and some veg. But most of the plate,
Childhood trauma. I'm exactly where you're coming from, but I mean, I don't know how my mother didn't kill me. When you say spuds, I hate potato. I really do. And it was the only thing, it was the staple. And one day must have been particularly tight for money because we didn't have meat. We had spuds, beans and egg. And I couldn't eat it. And I remember my mommy saying to me, you'll eat it before it eats you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in my head, do you want to bet? Didn't say it out loud because I wouldn't be sitting here today. But yeah, so I get you on that one.
and do you know what? You can understand that because there wasn't a fortune in money.
No.
You know? So it's about changing less potatoes, more chicken. And it is about changing the proportions of those kind of foods on your plate.
Also portion control, simple things.
Absolutely. I know, and you know what? It is the simple stuff done right. Like if you're going to build a house, you need foundations. And that is foundations to good nutrition.
That's why I think, you know, you're so refreshing in this world. And I do think that it, you know, because I'm quite cynical, and you know, there was something that was coming through there and it was authentic and it was on point all the time.
Yeah.
There's nothing, you're not saying what you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth whenever you're doing your social media.
Yeah.
So, and that comes across very, very forcefully and powerfully. So go you.
And do you know what? It's because I've lost that half stone in a week and I felt like crap.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, I just felt so weak in every shape and form. And I was going like, why would anybody want to go there just for a bloody stupid photo shoot? Like, seriously.
For that 5 minutes of...
Yeah, and then that nutrition person or PT or whatever, just say, look what I can do. Come and get this kind of body. And I was going like, we need to change the narrative here. Totally need to change the narrative. Strong physically, mentally and emotionally is where it's at, especially for females.
It's not just about the superficiality of the physique.
Absolutely not.
That's just an added bonus.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
So since you've opened, so you were freelance...
Yes, freelance for 4 years.
4 years,
Yeah.
and you're here for about a year and a half.
A year and a half,
now.
yeah.
What has surprised you the most since opening here?
What has surprised me the most? What has surprised me the most? I'm trying to think about this in a way that I don't offend anybody.
I'll just go for it.
Do you know what? Took me a wee while to find my feet. I am very selective about who I work with.
Okay.
So I am. There is a community in here that I am so precious about because it's so special. Every woman in here is so special. And I know if I needed any of those ladies at 3 o'clock in the morning, I could ring on any of them and they would be at my door like that. Okay. Everyone is so kind, so supportive. There is no hidden agendas anywhere with the people in the studio. And I am very selective on who I let become a part of that Woman Gone Strong studio.
I think that's a lovely contrast in terms of your, you want to say your work environment now compared to the work environment that you walked away from.
Totally.
You know, and that it does exist and you can create it.
We are the creator of our reality.
Yeah.
You know, and once you take as much control of that as you can, well then I get up happy every day. I get out, jumping out of bed in the morning to take class. And it doesn't matter if there's one in here. Doesn't matter if there's 9 in here. It doesn't matter because Shauna was on her own today with the Easter Sunday. She goes, oh, you should text me. And I was going, no, because you're coming in here, you're going to be one-to-one for PT.
Yes.
And Mr. Thor gets out for a lovely walk in the sunshine and we are buzzing. Come back in here for our morning classes and life is easy with regards to that.
And what I found just listening to you there, Catherine, you know, since we've started chatting, there's one thing there. You're not sugarcoating anything for anybody. You're not saying, look, I didn't experience fear. I don't know, or I know that what I did was, you know, it was a step into the dark,
Definitely.
you know, but I believed in it. And I didn't allow that fear to hold me back. In fact, that fear was a motivator. It was propelling you. You turned it into a positive.
Absolutely. Fear, the fear of not going back to whenever I felt like I was living in poverty, the fear of going back into a 9 to 5 and working with other people, I would be sacked within a week. I'll tell you that here now. Between menopause and just I can't cope with that environment anymore. I'd be sacked in a week. So I have no choice but to make this place work, you know? And I suppose paying mortgage, so I have a mortgage, right? And paying that mortgage and only me paying that mortgage and then COVID comes and kicks.
Yeah. Well, insert every expletive that you can think of here.
You know what? It was a learning curve and I sometimes wish, well, if I knew now, what, you know, and took that back to the COVID, I would be a very, 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 very successful person with regards to the Woman Gone Strong. But I remember I was in fight or flight and you couldn't see the wood for the trees. And it was literally because of my start time with going fully self-employed to the time of COVID, there was no help for me there. I was going, how am I going to pay my mortgage on week to week? You know, that kind of way. So I was sitting at my laptop 10, 11 hours a day trying to make that money to pay the mortgage, you know? So that was a tough time. But again, you just one day at a time and you just do what you have to do. And you do get through it. And that builds character, that builds resilience.
It's character building. And also, again, that it's about having that positive mental attitude. And, you know, that's really from the start of your conversation when you started off back in your early childhood, that resilience and not allowing, you know, opportunities sometimes come wrapped up as challenges.
Absolutely.
And we have to work through them. And that resilience and building through it and character building because you are stronger in all the ways that matter and confident.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, if you know, I think that you live before you had that job that you walked away from.
Absolutely.
You knew you were going to live after it.
Absolutely.
And you were taking control there a wee bit.
Totally. And I was going, okay. And one thing I did have a good talk to myself after COVID. And I was going, Catherine, what's your biggest fear? And I was going, my biggest fear is losing my house. And I was going, but what if you do lose your house? You'll just go and rent somewhere else. So take that fear factor away. Actually, you know, think about logically speaking, what's the worst thing that's going to happen there? You know, okay, my pride might be hurt, but that's also okay. To me, if the universe is going to send me that direction, well, then I'll go that direction because it's pivoting me for something greater. With regards to the job, 9 to 5, if I have to go and stack shelves in Tesco's, that's completely fine. You know, if this place doesn't work, that's completely fine. And see, once I took that fear factor away, my day-to-day sense of well-being coming out of that fight or flight and just going, all you can do is your best, Catherine. All you can do your best, and your heart is always in the right place. So what's meant for you will not go past.
And it's the worst thing in the world for you would be not to try. And I think that's such an important thing for everybody.
Yeah.
You have to try. And you will know that you tried if it's great, if it works out, brilliant.
Yes.
If it doesn't, well, it's leading you in a path
Yes.
to the next point in terms of where you're supposed to be.
Totally. And I suppose that brings us into menopause.
Oh, goodness. I know.
Talking about transitions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the transition in my mind and body to where it was 3 years ago is so different. I was an athlete there. I knew what was happening, what I was going to do and all the rest. And then my body goes, that's not happening, Catherine.
Wait till we tell you what you're going to do.
Some days you'll not be able to get out of bed. Some days you have to go to work and all you want to do is cry under a duvet all day. You know, and I was going like I learned nothing about perimenopause, menopause. And me and my sister was kind of going through it at the same time, just after Mummy passed. So we didn't know, is this grief?
Great.
Or
Oh, yes, everything. You were being
is
hit with
happening?
everything.
What is going on
Yeah.
here, you know? And I was going like, right, I need to get to the bottom of this. And that's where my education started to come with regards to menopause. It's still a learning curve every day. I read about it every day. I study about it every day. I've done my courses. And I suppose that's where the Woman Gone Strong studio was kind of built off the back of that, because every gym in the country, a young girl can go there and feel comfortable and work really hard. In here, the programs of the classes is programmed for no matter what mood you're in during menopause, no matter how you're feeling. If you want to come in here for a dancey one, a good cardio one, you can do that. In here feeling like shit, just a menopause class will be fine because we slow everything down, but we still work those muscles hard that you're still going to go downstairs and go, thank God I went to that class. You know, so that's how the timetable for the studio was built. Just like, I can't jump about and lift those bloody heavy weights that I want to. My body, my joints will not let me do that. I was going, what am I going to do for fun? I was like, okay, so I'm not an athlete for the time being, but what am I going to do for fun now? You know?
Yeah.
And that's how the timetable for in here was created.
There is something for every woman of every age, every stage, every shape, every level of physical ability. It is absolutely superb. And that's one thing that, again, I noticed as I was looking at it, I was thinking, well, I could do that. Maybe when I get a wee bit more confident, I'll work my way towards doing that. So there is something for everyone. And it's just great fun. And it's a really comfortable space and a fun space to be. And that's from somebody who this is not their normal kind of
Environment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And do you know what, Sheila, there's many a day I come up those stairs and maybe going to do a double class up there, and I was going like,
A double class.
I know, but it's like an hour's class.
That takes me to the fair. I'm like, I can get through one, a double one.
But I've been doing this all my days.
I know you have.
That's the difference. And I seem to just have a good stamina, you know. But, and I come in here and goes, my joints are aching, whatever. But I have to say, anytime that I do a class, whether it be an aerobic size one with the menopause one after, my joints are never any worse going down those stairs.
It's really, what you're doing at the minute, I would say, is really innovative. You know, you're really leading the way and kind of breaking new ground, and that's bound to be an exciting place.
It is. And I suppose that's something I am so proud of in here. And girls says to me, Catherine, why is this place not packed to the gild? You know, you should be putting more classes on for more people queuing out that door. And I goes, well, we do have waiting lists for classes. But I will never make this place any bigger, because for me, having somewhere like a comfortable environment for you to come in, like if I really put my head down, I can fill this place and maybe next door as well. But for me, that's not what it's about. It's about having that community. And for me, a small community with small classes is where you're going to get that personal touch.
And that's where, again, we talked about you kind of being countercultural and not going, you know, before. So you're staying authentic and true to yourself.
Absolutely.
Kind of defying the curve and the trajectory there.
That's it.
So if you could go back in time, Catherine,
Jesus.
to any point in your history, what words of wisdom would you give to your younger self, to younger Catherine?
Oh, what would I give to my younger self? I would say, don't be afraid. Just go and do it. Do not be afraid to speak out loud. Voice your opinions. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. Don't let anybody make you feel that you're unimportant. And go and have fun, because that's what's the worst thing that's going to happen.
What's the worst thing that's going to happen? I just noticed when you say, don't let anybody tell you I can't, it's says, I can and I will.
Well, actually,
something.
after COVID, I got it tattooed.
Did you? Fantastic.
I can and I will. Just in those days,
yeah.
and then whenever I was lifting my barbell up
Yes.
overhead, I was like, I can and I will.
It's defiant.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And finally, what words of wisdom would you have for anyone else, male or female, who wants to go out on their own or has the ambition of being their own boss, either in this field or in any field?
If anything, have that little bit of security and the backup. I would say have a years of bills in the bank account. So that takes the pressure off you, keeps you out of fight or flight. Therefore, you can make better business decisions because you're not under severe stress and pressure. That, and do you know what? Just go and do it. If you're going to do it as a side hustle, do that first, and then start to reduce your hours if you need that wee bit more security. But do you know what? Go and do it, because come that last day, that last breath, you're not going to look back and go, oh, I made that much money in that job. Hated the job, but you're going to go, oh my God, I made some of my life.
Yeah, it's going to be that reset, isn't it, in terms of the mentality?
What impact did I have on people's lives?
What are people going to say about you? Basically, fear didn't hold her back. She led the way she did.
That's it. Sometimes I think, I wonder who would go to my funeral. It sounds a wee bit sad, but
I think our minds can all go down that pathway.
That's menopause stuff for you there, Sheila. Oh,
well,
stuff
Catherine,
you think about.
I have to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you today. It has been an absolute wealth of information and inspiration as well.
Thank you, Sheila.
And, I will definitely be seeing you in the gym. And I can say to all ladies who are watching in the here and now, this is the place to be. This is the community. This is the gym for you. Whether or not you've ever gone to a gym before, come and meet Catherine, because she's the real deal.
Thank you, Sheila.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for today.